Welcome back, fight fans. We're back again, back with UFC 298, and of course, this week's card, UFC Mexico. So we'll jump right on into those results from last week. So let's get right on into it. All right, so let's start with the best bets, the recap from last week, UFC 298. Let's jump right on into it over here. Okay, good, it's working. I was a little worried. The triple play. That, of course, is where we gave the edge to a bunch of different fighters, of course, and then we put three of them together for the triple play. And last week, that ended up being Robert Whittaker, Ian Gary, and Ming Yang Zhang. I forgot what his first name was. Ming Yang Zhang. And that was a nice W for us. Whittaker, of course. Well, actually, they all easily got it done. I mean, Ming Yang Zhang did get a little beat up in there, but he still grabbed the first round KO. And that brings us to a 7-8 record for triple play. Pretty good with the 3-leg parlays, and we're back in the green. 0.27 with the triple play, with the parlays. How about them apples, huh? Then we had the Grand Slam. That, of course, is where we have 4 legs instead of 3. 4 different fighters that I gave the edge last week, and then we put those together into the Grand Slam. That, of course, is what that is. Ignore the shiny part of my head there. It's very bright in here, so the lighting is a little bit off today, because of course we're headed into spring, so the lighting is a little bit weird. But anyway, I don't know why I'm saying that in this video. But anyway, next up, Grand Slam, of course, that ended up being Rinya Nakamura, Robert Whittaker, Volkanovski, and Merab, and of course, sadly, Volk was the one that lost it for us. Oh my god, I was truly devastated. I'm still devastated, honestly. That one stung quite a bit. So of course, that ended up being lost. 3 out of 4 is pretty good, but sadly, that means absolutely nothing. So that brings us to a record of also 7-8, but of course, because they are 4-leg parlays instead of 3, we're still at a profit of 1.7. So we're in the green in both of the parlays. We're getting it done, folks. But, nothing substantial, but we're still in the green. So that's really all we want. Then, of course, we had the top dog, the best underdog of the week. And, I mean, probably not a surprise on this one, but only one underdog on the entire card cashed. That was Topuria, and as you can tell, considering I had Volk on the parlays, we did not win the top dog. I picked Kopylov, and he was actually doing pretty well, shutting down the grappling, looking pretty good, and then was taken down, had his back taken, and it was really just it from there. And like I said, only one underdog on the whole card cashed in, and that was Ilia Topuria. I did not have him, so we did not win that. But I mean, we're still at a pretty great record of 10-5. I mean, that's pretty insane for picking underdogs, which means, yes, we lost a unit there, but we're still way in the green at 6.1 units. That is the cash cow of this series for sure, is the top dog. Then, of course, the big one, it's the sniper pick. I mean, it was an easy one here. Like I said, I mean, 12 fights we had? So 11 out of the 12 favorites cashed in. The biggest favorite being Rinya Nakamura. I had literally no doubt in my mind he was going to win this fight. And even when I was watching it, even though it was a decision, there was no doubt in my mind he was winning that fight the entire time. So we went with Rinya Nakamura. We cashed that in. It was just one of those weeks where we were just getting a win. We weren't looking for much profit here. We just wanted the win. I put 12 units down, which is insane for most people, but I knew we were going to win, obviously. So at minus 1,200, that brings us 1 unit of profit. So, of course, the win brings us to 11-4. Again, still not great for me, but that's fine. And that brings us to 3.07. So, you know, that Peterson loss tanked us, of course, with 7 units of loss in that one fight, which is what happens with this kind of strategy. But now, of course, we're slowly building ourselves back into the green eventually, hopefully, fingers crossed. So we've already got quite a few of those units back, which is what I was saying, you know? It looks bad when you lose one like that right away, especially, but then you just claw your way back because the sniper picks, they're the sniper picks for a reason, you know? Headshot, I get them all the time. All the time. I mean, 11-4, again, terrible record in my opinion, but it's what we're working with, so we'll just keep on plugging, getting those numbers back up. Hopefully we can get to something like 20-4. That would be fantastic. Anyway, easy dub, never doubted it. Just no finish, really, because Carlos Vera, pretty insane defense there. But, yeah, easy win. And that brings us all the way to exactly 5 units of profit. And if you don't remember, or if you don't know now, you know, 2 weeks ago, we were at 0, like just a straight up, you know, even number. Well, it was 007, so it was 0.07, but basically even. Now we've brought that up to 5 units, so we're rolling along. We're getting in the green. 2 weeks of profit in a row. Beautiful. That is all we can ask for. And that is it, of course, for the recap for Best Bets UFC 298. Now we've got the recap for UFC 298 for the edge, who I gave the edge to win the fights last week, UFC 298. And of course, we'll jump right on into that with the recap, of course. I keep forgetting that I have the graphic there, the animated part there. And it opened up with Elliott. Oh yeah, Oban. Oh my God. I was like, it wasn't Tim Elliott. Who was this? Oban Elliott. I mean, listen, there were a few seconds in there where I was like, oh no, this has gone horribly wrong when he got dropped that bad like that. But seriously, other than that, it was a very dominant win. Yeah, it was just that one, like, you know, like a minute period where it was like, uh-oh, I think we may have made a mistake here. And I mean, you know, after what we saw in the MMA hour with Oban Elliott, definitely cheering for him even harder. Super fun guy to watch, super nice guy. I wish him well in the future, of course. And you know what? He won us one here too, which, I mean, you gotta love that as well. Bringing us the win. Next up was, I believe it's Danny Barlow. I kept saying Logan Barlow. I don't know, it just sounds right to me, Logan Barlow, but I believe it's Danny Barlow. He also got us the win. Honestly, it was actually a pretty close fight. Barlow kind of just edged ahead in pace and then got an absolutely nasty TKO with combos. Quinlan falling all over the cage at that point. I mean, he was getting rocked left and right and center all the way across the cage. Absolutely insane stuff there. So got the win there. 2-0 already to open the night. I mean, we love that. Then, of course, next up for us, it was Mingyang Zhang. Got hit by some good shots there, but like I said, ended up getting that crazy knockout win. Actually, just like I expected. I even said that. I was like, you know what? He gets hit, but he always seems to take it and comes back and gets a win. That's what he does, and that's literally what he did. You know, is that a strategy that's going to keep working over and over and over again? Probably not, but it is a strategy that I figured was going to work for this fight, so I'm glad we got that one for a 3-0 start. How about that? Then it was Rinya Nakamura, of course, the sniper pick. Again, like I said, there was no doubt that he was winning this fight. So as soon as we got the first 3, I was like, oh, beautiful. We're opening the night with 4-0. Amazing. So incredible start. 4-0. Literally could not have been better up until this point. And then we get to the main card with, of course, who ended up being the top dog, Roman Kopylov. I did give him the edge, but I'm not going to lie. I don't know. It's not that I wasn't convinced he was going to win. It's that I knew Hernandez had a chance, so I probably shouldn't have given him the edge. I don't regret picking him for the top dog. I don't regret that at all. I still think he was the top dog to pick from, but kind of regret giving him the edge in this. So probably shouldn't have done this one, but hey, you know, whatever. Again, it's a 4-1 start. I can't complain about that too much. And like I said before in the other segment, he was landing okay, shutting down the grappling. It was pretty close. I would say he was probably kind of winning up until that point. And then he had his back taken, and it was really just it from there. Like I said, don't really know why I gave him the edge. Probably shouldn't have done that, but hey, we did it, and it's a 4-1 start. So again, can't complain too much, but I do feel a little bit dumb about wasting a number on that one. Anyway, next up, it was Merab. I'm not going to lie, I was worried after the first round. I was like, oh no, have we severely misjudged Merab with his cardio, his pace, his pressure? Have we made a severe miscalculation in this? But no, it was honestly just a slow start for him. He said it himself, and we'll get into that in a little bit of how insane of a concept that was. But second and third round, he easily dominated Cejudo. I mean, it really wasn't even close from there. Pace, pressure, everything. I mean, it was just like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, okay. He easily won the second, easily won the third. I thought it was pretty convincing. 29-28, never a doubt after that. So, yeah. But, I mean, what I was going to get into was that he gets into these 15-minute sparring sessions, essentially, with Aljamain Sterling before his fights, and he wanted to keep going and do more because he, quote, wasn't ready yet. That wasn't enough yet. What a lunatic. So I guess if Aljo would have been able to hold out for another 5-10 minutes in the locker room, we would have seen 3 rounds of domination from Merab. Who knows? I don't know. But I mean, what an absolute lunatic. I mean, this guy is something else. I love him, and he's so funny too. He really is. He's so entertaining. So yeah, locked us in another win there, 5-1, and then we moved on to the rest of the main card, which was of course Ian Gary. That was a boring one. Wow, I almost fell asleep during this one for sure. Close fight. I didn't think it was a split decision, to be honest. I thought it was pretty obviously Ian Gary. I don't really understand what people were all up in arms about. I don't know if it's just because they don't like Ian Gary. I still don't really like Ian Gary, even after all the nice things he's been saying. I just don't know if I actually believe that that's what he's really like. I don't know. Again, I'm a psych major, so I see through a lot of the bullshit. I don't know. I just don't really... I think he's a lot more mean and dark than he's letting on, and I wish he would kind of play into that and not kind of... I don't want to say fake it. I don't know. I just don't fully believe that he is as genuinely nice as he's trying to make himself seem like, and I just don't like that fake nonsense. You're either, just be yourself. Just be yourself. I don't know if he is. I honestly don't. I can't tell anymore if he's being himself or not. So I'm not a fan of that. But I still think he clearly won the fight, even though I don't like him. So I don't know what y'all were talking about, that Jeff Neal somehow won the fight and that he was robbed. I don't know what the fuck you guys were watching. I thought it was pretty obviously at least a 29-28. And I'm not going to lie, I think I even scored it a 30-27 myself. But I could see, I think it was the first round maybe, that it was super, super close. So 29-28 made a lot of sense. But yeah, I would have said 30-27 Gary way before I would have said the Neal one. I mean, there's absolutely no way. Either way, super boring. Don't recommend watching that again for anybody. But it was still close. It was just like, I don't really know how you could score it for Neal. Anyway, 6-1 up until that point. I mean, holy shit, are we killing it by this point? And really could have been 6-0, but we'll let that go. Which brings us, of course, into the co-main event, Robert Whittaker. And this one, actually, I'm not going to say I was super worried, because I still figured, okay, Rob should still be able to win this. But I mean, my God, that one spinning kick in the first round where Whittaker got dropped, I mean, that those were some scary times, let me tell you. But as always, he ends up winning with his skill, his pace, his fight IQ, and everything else. I mean, Whitaker's just that good. He's just that good. Probably, I would say the second, maybe the third best. You know, we got, of course, there's Adesanya, there's Strickland, there's DDP, there's Whitaker. You know, I would say DDP is probably the best. Then I think, I don't even know if I can rank them, so we'll just skip that. But yeah, anyway, he gets us another win. It's 7-1. I mean, we're trying to cut these down because I make these into clips on YouTube, of course. So why am I still rambling on? I don't know. But we're going to move on, of course, to the main event, and that's where I took Volkanovski. I don't regret taking him at all, because, I mean, let's be real, he won the first round. I don't regret this at all. I mean, he was winning the first round, just made a mistake, like he said. He got pinned up along the fence. You can't do that with Topuria. Nowhere to go. He starts unleashing the combos, and that's it. Just as simple as that. I mean, devastated. Devastated. I haven't been that upset by a loss in quite a while. Actually, probably since the last time Volkanovski lost, I haven't been that sad about something. But, you know, yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's just devastating. That being said, I mean, you know, it's cool to see, you know, I would say a future superstar. I think Topuria can get it done. Can he be a new Conor? I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest, because he just doesn't seem to have that personality. It's a little bit weird, actually, because when he's in interviews and when he's fighting and all that, it's like, wow, this guy's something else. But when he's actually, like, in a situation, like, after the fight and everything, it's almost like he kind of doesn't really know what to say anymore, because he was clearly, in his huge interviews, like on the MMA Hour and such, it seems like he's not reading off of anything, but he's rehearsed what he's, you know, like he knows what he's going to say. He's got a couple of lines in his noggin there that he's going to pull out and throw in there. But when he doesn't have anything like that, it's kind of like, oh, I see. Interesting. Which isn't what Conor's like. That's where it falls apart for me, because Conor, he's got that improv. He's so quick. He just comes up with anything, because he says the first thing that comes to his head. But you can tell that Topuria is kind of thinking in the background, like, what should I be saying? You know, it's just a little bit, you know, he loses me just a little bit right there. But he definitely has the skill, and he definitely has the personality when he's rehearsing things a little bit more and knows what he's going to be saying. But yeah, so great win for him, but devastating loss for all the fans out there. But anyway, so that brings us to a record overall of, I thought it was going to do it, of 19-12, which of course, you know, that's because we went 7-2, 6-2. What was it? Was it 7-2? I don't know. Either way, it brings us to 19-12. So now we have a slightly better looking record. Still, again, not really what I would like to see. I thought we were going to be at about, 20 and, 22, or what would it be? 22-9, maybe 23-8. I thought that's where it would be, around there. Or even just like 19-9, cut it down a bit. But hey, 19-12, that's a good bounce back week. That's what I would like to see every week, is a 6-2, 7-1, something like that. That's what we want to see. So I don't know. I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm just rambling, so we'll move on. 19-12, it's a good bounce back week. That's all we need to know. Now we're coming up to this week's card, of course. It's UFC Mexico, Moreno, Royval. Let's jump right on into it. The first fight of the night, it's Mohamed Naimov and Eric Silva, I believe. I think that's his name, at featherweight, of course. And we'll jump right on into it with Naimov. I mean, he absolutely exploded onto the scene with the win over Malarkey at lightweight, by the way, 155. Got a KO in that one. Was kind of losing the fight before that, but then got that brutal KO over Jamie Malarkey. Again, at lightweight. That's important to remember. Then he beat Nathaniel Wood. He beat Wood. I mean, I did see that coming because I picked him, but I'm not gonna lie, that was I was pretty impressed that he actually got it done. I was a little worried that I was gonna be wrong about that one, because Wood is so good and he still managed to win. I don't want to say easily, but it was definitely a convincing win for sure. And what I mean, he's pretty well rounded. I can't even say, oh, he's a really good striker, but the grappling, no. Honestly, he's actually very good all the way around. He's got fast, powerful strikes, hands, and kicks. I mean, again, he knocked out Jamie Malarkey, and he knocked down Nathaniel Wood, stumbled him a couple of times, dropped Wood multiple times, I should say, almost got a finish in there. And he also took down and controlled Wood pretty easily. I mean, maybe that's to do with the size, because, of course, Wood fought a bantamweight, and then, Naimov was at lightweight against Malarkey. So maybe that's a sizing issue, maybe, but still very impressive that he was able to do all that. And he, by the way, shut down Malarkey's grappling at 155. Now, Malarkey maybe not necessarily known as a grappler, but again, he's still a true 155er going against a 145er. So it's still impressive that Naimov was able to shut that down, especially on, what was it, like a week or two notice? I mean, very impressive, very impressive stuff from Naimov, which is why, again, he's so good, especially on a full camp. Very impressive. Also impressive is just the sheer speed of everything. He's very fast at striking, to the point where, like I said, he was catching Wood. Wood is a 135er, so yes, of course, maybe couldn't stand up to that power. The power that got a knockout at lightweight, but it's also the speed. I mean, the speed was also catching Wood off guard, and again, he fought a bantamweight, so the speed is something else too. It is very impressive to see. And not only that, he showed that he is also very tough. I mean, he got dropped by Wood, recovered very quickly with a takedown of his own, and then some huge ground and pound. So he just kind of walked right through that and just got one of his own after that, really. And then was actually, like I said, kind of losing against Malarkey, and then rallied back to get that knockout. So, I mean, this guy, never count this guy out. Seriously. He is something else. Which is probably why he's got the insane odds of minus 650. I mean, justified, probably, because especially against this opponent, but still, minus 650, that's a big number. Not like minus 1200 last week with Rinya, but it's a big number. On the other side, of course, Eric Silva. He's 9-2 now after that loss in his debut. He got a KO in the Contender Series, but the opponent was kind of in the wrong weight class, and pretty inexperienced. I mean, Dana was not happy with that matchup. That's one of the few times where he has really leaned into the matchmakers on that one, of how bad that was as a matchup. He was not impressed by that one at all. And I mean, looking back, I did see what he was saying for sure. I mean, the other guy was really small. He only had like 4 or 5 fights. So yeah, it just really didn't make a whole lot of sense looking back on it. But anyway, what is he good at? Honestly, it's mostly the grappling. I mean, he does have some fast, the striking is next up. My bad. I skipped a line. Fairly even with TJ Brown. That was his debut. He was fairly even with TJ Brown in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu until he started to get hit a little bit more. Then that kind of fell apart a little bit more. But up until then, he was pretty competitive, I would say, with TJ Brown. And TJ Brown, again, maybe not a name that's like, whoa, he's so good. But he's been around for a while and he's still good. So the fact that he was keeping up with him is still something. The striking, though, a little bit of a problem. I mean, he does have some fast hands, but he really does not have much power, which is a problem because he has terrible striking defense. And I mean, not very good at all. Hands way down, so he gets hit a lot. not good. I mean, he got rocked by Brown immediately in the debut, dropped a couple of times, not very good stuff on the striking front, that is for sure. And really, even the fight IQ, I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of fights, so that's probably why. But he made a decent amount of mistakes with his position, kind of just kept putting himself in the wrong spots, which was a huge problem, and really did not do well with Brown moving forward at him. He doesn't really know how to deal with pressure like that, which, again, probably why he's at plus 450 right now. So, I mean, who am I picking? Who am I giving the edge here? I mean, you could probably tell already who I'm going to be giving the edge to. I mean, listen, you know, Silva could use the grappling to control Naimov, nullify that offense, because we haven't seen a whole lot of grappling from Naimov. But, you know, maybe? I don't think so, though. And Naimov also could himself get a brutal KO or just dominate with a decision. So, I mean, who's getting the edge here? I think is pretty obvious. I'm going to be giving it to Mohamed Naimov. Again, Silva was competitive with TJ Brown, but Naimov KO'd a 155er and beat a potential top 15 guy in Wood. So I'm way more impressed by that. And also, by the way, huge factor, Silva is 36 years old, Mohamed Naimov 29. So 7-year age difference. That's also a pretty big factor, especially when Naimov has a lot of those other factors going in his favor quite handily. So that's where I'm going with that. We're going with Naimov. We move on to the next one. It's Victor Altamirano. Whoops, I didn't press the thing yet. Victor Altamirano, Felipe dos Santos at flyweight. Very exciting fight. I'm looking forward to this one. Altamirano, 12-3, lost to Tim Elliott in the last fight, and he did lose in his debut as well, which I didn't write down, so I don't know who he lost to. And he's got wins over Vinicius Salvador. What an absolute maniac that guy is. And actually Daniel Lacerda too, absolute maniac. And Daniel Lacerda as well, who we're also going to be talking about today. By the way, a lot of these guys look almost identical, like Dos Santos, Lacerda, and another guy on this card as well. Now I can't remember his name. They look so similar. It's like it's very confusing, and they also fight very similarly, so it's very confusing. But yeah, good thing I have all these notes in front of me. So, but yeah, his problem though in the Elliott fight though, that's why he lost, was the wrestling. I mean, he really could not deal with it at all. Absolutely not. He could not handle that at all. So you can probably tell what I'm going to be saying here. But we'll open up with the good stuff, of course, as always. Offense. It's not even just his striking, it's just offense in general. He's very good offensively. Well, not very good, but he's good offensively. Used the grappling to beat Salvador, so he's got the grappling there against certain people. He has quick hands and kicks, mixes it up a lot between the striking and grappling, so he really mixes it up offensively, and that works really well for him. I mean, he usually pressures most of the time as well. So yeah, offensively, not bad at all. But defensively, that's where the problems come, because he's focusing on offense. That leaves a lot of openings. He leaves his hands low because of that, because he's looking for a takedown. So, you know, he's going from here to, like, you know, hands down, looking for the takedown, and then switching it up, still hands low. So that's a problem. And then we have seen his cardio be a bit of an issue. He really, really slowed down a lot against Salvador, which is saying something, because Salvador, I'm not really convinced has good cardio either. So that's a problem, and which led to him getting hit a lot by Vinicius Salvador, which is not something you ever want to happen, which probably why he is a bit of an underdog here, plus 250, or a significant underdog here at plus 250. Moving on, Felipe dos Santos on the other side, 7-1 record, of course, only because of that loss in his debut against Manel Kape in September, which is by decision, which Very impressive debut. I mean, getting a decision loss to Cop and having some really good moments against Cop, very impressive debut. Really could not have gone better and still losing. You know, obviously it would be better if you won, but when you lose and you do that well, very impressive. And it's really mostly due to the striking. I mean, like I said, insane striking, was very competitive with Cop, hit him pretty good quite a few times. Did get dropped a few times by Cop, but it's Manel Cop. I mean, that's what happens. You're probably going to get dropped unless you're like in the top 5. So very impressed there with the striking, and also impressive the pressure. I mean, the forward pressure never stops moving forward, never stops throwing something, and with that even managed to overwhelm Cop a few times there, which is saying something, because that hasn't really happened to Cop that much. So very impressive that he was able to do that. And not only is he got all that going for him, he is also very tough. Got dropped by Cop a couple of times and stumbled a few times, but always kept fighting and was always still dangerous until the very end of the fight. Cannot count this guy out. And I would imagine that would be why, of course, he's a huge favorite at -334. So who's getting the edge here? I mean, again, it's probably fairly obvious where I'm going with this one. It's somewhat close on paper, but, you know, I mean, like, and there are some questions, like, is Dos Santos as good as we think? We haven't really seen much wrestling, so, you know, maybe Altamirano can hang with him on the feet, get some takedowns, grind to a decision, maybe. Or maybe Dos Santos is going to look even better because he has an actual full camp this time, and then dominate on the feet to a KO or a decision. I mean, I'm going with Dos Santos. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. From what I can tell, I think this guy is the real deal for sure. Easily going to be in the top 15 at some point, probably pretty soon. And he's got some pretty insane striking. He really does. With his pace, as long as he doesn't get controlled with the wrestling, that is, he should be able to pretty easily win this, I think. So I'm going with Dos Santos on this one. Next one up, it's... who is this? Oh yeah, Luis Rodriguez. And is it Dennis Bondar? No, I can't remember his first name. It's Bondar, though. So we'll open up, of course, with Luis Rodriguez. Lost to Jerome. I thought it was Jeremy Rivera, but when I watched it back, they said Jerome Rivera, so I'm just going to go with Jerome Rivera on Contender Series in 2020. He was only 21 at that point. It was a pretty close fight. I don't know if I would have said he won it, but it was very close. 5 wins since then, mostly in Lux, though, which I believe is in Mexico. So, you know, not the biggest stage. You know, it's not LFA. It's not Bellator, PFL, or whatever, what have you, you know. It's in Mexico, but it's still something, and it's 5 wins in a row. That is something. And again, he was 21 the first time. That was 4 years ago, so he's 24. Actually, I think he's 24 now. Yeah. And in that time, I mean, even back then, by the way, still looked pretty well-rounded, I gotta say. Decent hands, decent kicks, showed some good wrestling in there. Pretty slick submission attempt, too, so seems like he's pretty well-rounded all over the place. The problem, though, not a whole lot of pace. Throws with more power, which usually then means less output. And in this case, that is true. Not a whole lot of output. And of course, that really brings up the experience because, of course, again, 21 on the Contender Series, did lose that. And then, you know, 5 fights in Lux, you know, those aren't usually the best competition. So, you know, we don't really know how experienced, like the fight IQ behind everything here. Super close fight on Contender Series, like I said, probably lost because of his inexperience on that one. And he did make a couple of mistakes in that fight. Has he gotten better? We'll find out. So that's why the question mark is there, because he didn't look great with the fight IQ before, but maybe he's gotten a lot better since. And it's pretty close, but he's a slight favorite right now, -120. On the other side, it's Bondar. What a weird run this guy has had. Kind of reminds me of Charles Johnson, maybe even Zhalgo Shumagulov a little bit. Weird loss to Malcolm Gordon in his debut. I don't really... It was kind of one of those weird ones. A little bit like the Ortega one that we're going to talk about, of course, later in the stream here. But a bizarre loss there with his arm getting injured in a weird way. And then had a technical decision loss to Carlos Hernandez in the last one, which was weird because he was kind of brutally KO'd in the last second of the fight. But at the same time, it was also kind of because of a clash of heads. So, yeah, I don't know. It was a really weird one. Very, very strange. So this guy's had a very weird career. He did look good at striking, though, I gotta say. Super slick defense, like amazing head movement. Pretty accurate most of the time, I would say. And did show some decent wrestling to get some takedowns, too, but... what? But, oh yeah, what? That doesn't make any... My notes don't make any sense, so I'll just skip by this. The striking looked good. The pressure, always walking forward. I mean, this guy never takes a step back at all. And some people can't really deal with that. So, especially in this one with a younger guy, how is he going to handle that? We'll find out. The pace, though, weirdly enough, he walks forward constantly, but he's not actually really throwing that much. He's not really landing all that much, which is a strange combination. I don't usually have that kind of combination on here. It's very weird. And he also slows down a little bit over the fight, so that also affects his pace a little bit. Is even though he's still walking forward in the third round, he's still really not throwing out all that much, which is probably why this fight is so close, because there's a lot of questions on both sides. Minus 105 right now for him. So who's getting the edge in this one? I mean, like I said, it's pretty close. Both of them pretty well-rounded. Either one, I would say, should be able to get a decision. Maybe even a finish on either side. I mean, there's so many questions in this one, so it's probably not a surprise on this one. I just couldn't pick a side. I couldn't pick a side. There's way too many questions about both of them. You know, does Rodriguez now have better fight IQ to handle that, or is he still, you know, making some mistakes here and there? You don't want to make some mistakes against this guy. And Bondar is, like I said, all over the place with the results, so there's just so much up in the air. Couldn't make up a decision on this one, so it's even. And I mean, the odds are even too, so we move on. Next fight, it's Puelles, Pollo Loco? I don't know. And Fereziam on the other side. Puelles from Peru on that side. Embarrassing loss in the last one, I gotta say. Exposed is the word I would use against Dan Hooker in late 2022. That was the one where he was, you know, getting just brutalized by Hooker, really. I mean, he kept going, you know, scooting on the ground, going for all these leg locks, just Imanari rolls and all this shit. Not setting up any takedowns at all. And Hooker's just brushing him off and then just beats him to a pulp on the ground. Embarrassing performance. I cannot stand when fighters do that. At least learn how to do a takedown. Like, at least learn a little bit of wrestling so you can get your BJJ going. Don't just go for Imanari rolls and leg locks. That is not going to work. Not in 2024. No, sir. This does not work anymore. So, of course, the BJJ is something that you want to look out for, of course. I mean, very dangerous down there. Multiple knee bars. Even actually locked it in a little bit against Hooker, but when you know how to defend against it, you're fine. And Hooker was fine. He was never going to lose to that. But yeah, and the reason why I said BJJ again and not just grappling is because he really doesn't have wrestling at all. He just has the Imanari roll and some pretty insane BJJ. That's it. Interestingly, the same thing happened in his other fights when he fought Clay Guida. He did win that, but Guida was the one who took him down. So that's how they ended up on the ground there. And same with Chris Gritzmacher just before that. Gritzmacher, very old, very bad at wrestling. So he kind of just gave up terrible takedowns, like awful takedowns. I mean, even Cormier kind of shits all over wrestling all the time. But even he was like, that is not a good takedown. Terrible, terrible takedowns. So, I mean, really, this guy does not have wrestling at all. And of course, by that same token, really does not have striking at all. He didn't even land a strike against Clay Guida. Doesn't land strikes at all. He doesn't throw strikes at all. His entire game plan A, B, C, knee bar. Rolling around, Imanari roll, knee bar. That is his game plan every single fight. Maybe he'll switch it up this time. We'll see. He's been off for a year and a half. We'll see. Maybe. I don't know. But haven't been impressed by this guy at all. And then the pace. Again, because he can't strike, he has no output whatsoever. So, kind of hard to win, especially in a decision if you have no output at all. And he's at plus 175 right now. On the other side, it's Fares Ziam. Wasn't really impressed by this guy at first, but I'm not going to lie, he's been getting a lot better. He's 14-4 now. Lost to McKinney and then Don Madge, which was his UFC debut. He won against Malarkey, and then Jai Herbert in his last fight, which is pretty impressive. A win over Jai Herbert. Sure, he's a little bit older now. Still an impressive win, nonetheless. And like I said, he has been improving quite a bit, and he's still pretty young. So he's definitely improving. And he's in that same gym, with Gon and... is it Imavov, I think, is also in there? The one in Paris. So a great gym to be in. Always improving. The striking is what you want to watch out for, though. Very technical striking, which makes sense because, again, if you're training with Imavov and Gon, they also have technical striking. Very, very similar stuff here with him. Good hands, good kicks, great takedown defense. So you can already kind of see why this is a huge problem for Puelles. If he can't get a takedown, that's a huge problem. But he has been submitted 3 times in his career, but most of those were when he was younger, and then the one that just stands out was against McKinney, who is very good all around as well. The movement is something else to look out for. Again, Imavov, Gon, very good at movement. Same thing with him. Moves a lot, great movement, side to side. And it also helps a lot with, of course, the takedown defense, because it's hard to take down somebody that's moving all over the place. Sadly, the one flaw that he still has, not a whole lot of output, doesn't really throw a lot. Great defense, though. So he kind of just relies on having amazing defense and then accurate offense. So not a huge barrage of strikes in there, just accurate strikes here and there, which, again, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of like Imavov. Maybe not like Gon, but for heavyweight, I mean, there's not too many people that move more and throw more than Gon. The odds, minus 225. So, significant favorite in this one. And you can kind of see why already, and probably where I'm going with this. Who's getting the edge? I mean, it is fairly close. I mean, Puelles can, of course, get a sub. Ziam has been submitted 3 times before. That's something to remember. But if Ziam can stay on his feet, I mean, I don't really see how Puelles has any kind of a shot if Ziam can stay on his feet. I mean, he could get a KO, he could get a decision. He should just be able to win at that point. So I gotta go with the Frenchman, Ziam. I just can't pick somebody that's just completely one-dimensional like that. Like, extremely one-dimensional. That's like, who was that Gracie that just came back and fought? Oh, man. He fought Charles Jourdain, and it was like, yeah, this style of just being a one-dimensional BJJ guy, that's done. In 2024 or even 2023, that is done. That does not work anymore. Not in the UFC. Could it work other places? I'm sure it could. But not here. Not going to work. Knock on wood. I mean, this is of course the part where I jinx it and we lose. But you know, hopefully, knock on wood, still goes well. Should be able to stay up and win fairly easily. Like I said, great takedown defense for Ziam so far. I think that'll continue. We move on. It's the rematch. Edgar Chairez, Daniel Lacerda. This happened in September, and it was actually rescheduled. Didn't write down when. I think it was maybe December. It was rescheduled, called off. Now we get it again in February. That's where we are. And I'll give you a quick recap of what happened in that fight. I mean, there was no difference on the feet. Truly, it was a complete wash. They both had a couple of strikes land, nothing crazy on either side, just dead even. And then Lacerda got a takedown. They did get back up though, but he did get a takedown. That's important to remember. And then Chairez looked for a sub along the fence while they were standing up, and then the ref just stopped it. I mean, because Lacerda let his arm go limp just so he could kind of, you know, angle himself, move around a little bit more. The ref thought that that meant he was out, so he called it, and Lacerda was still standing there. He looked at the ref and he was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Very clearly not submitted, not out of it or anything, didn't wobble, literally nothing. He was just straight up just trying to defend the choke. And again, they were standing. It wasn't even on the ground. So very bizarre stoppage here. But of course that means that Chairez is going to be a massive favorite in this one, because people think, oh, he got the submission win, you know, it's just the ref making a stupid mistake. Well, we can't say that. Again, they were standing up. It is extremely rare to get a standing submission, so although we do have to remember that that was locked in, we also got to remember pretty rare to finish that, so I honestly don't think he was going to be able to finish it. But where would it have gone from there? We'll never know. And we'll find out this weekend, of course. But before that, though, Chairez decision loss to Tatsuro Taira in his debut. He also lost to Clayton Carpenter on the Contender Series. And interestingly enough, his strong point actually seems to be his striking, really. Which, again, is why I kind of didn't really... It's not that I didn't put much emphasis on the fact that he submitted Lacerda in the first one. You know, like, he's never really been a submission guy, so it's kind of like, I don't really know if he would have been able to finish that. I really don't think that he could have. So, I don't know. Anyway, the striking is what you want to watch out for. Technical striking did drop Tatsuro Taira twice, which is saying something, because he doesn't usually get hit like that. Once with a leg kick, which is even crazier, and once with the punches. The wrestling is a problem. Like, listen, the BJJ, okay. I mean, we saw him lock in the choke, so I can't really say he's bad at BJJ. But the wrestling is a problem. He keeps getting taken down by every single person he's faced, including Lacerda, which is why I pointed it out in the first fight, because he's been taken down and controlled by every single person that he's fought in front of the UFC audiences. So I include, of course, the Contender Series on that. That's why I say it like that. And he even actually pulled guard a lot against Taira, which is fucking insane. I don't know why you would ever do that against Taira, somebody who exclusively grapples and submits people. Why you would pull guard against him, I have no idea. But he did. And that could definitely be a problem in this rematch. His other problem, pace. Not really much output at all against Tatsuro Taira, but when he did land, it was hard. So not a lot of pace, but the power with that striking is impressive. And of course, because he won the first fight, minus 450, I totally understand why they're saying that. But I kind of disagree. I think it's a lot closer than that. I mean, if you can't tell if I disagree, but you know. Insanely excited. I mean, this guy. The only exception to him being super exciting was actually that last fight, because it was the only fight he's ever done where he didn't just run in there, blitz the guy for 1 or 2 straight rounds, and then get finished, of course. But he always blitzes people, and he didn't do it in the last one, which was a lot less exciting than normal. I was a little disappointed. And which is what I'm saying, he lost 4 in a row before that weird no contest because of that crazy style. So as you would imagine, his strength is his offense, of course. Insane striking. He got actually a 10-8, by the way, a 10-8 against CJ Vergara before this Chairez fight. 10-8's very rare. CJ Vergara, somewhat good prospect as well. So to get a 10-8 over him, that is saying something. That is very impressive. And he looked great. He locked in a great submission attempt in that one as well. Got a nice takedown in the first fight, against Chairez here. Controlled along the fence in the first fight. He's pretty good with offense all around. The one problem, of course, with 4 losses by finish in a row, it's the defense. I mean, again, he shored that up a little bit in the last one because he was a bit more calm. But obviously, all those times he was finished was because of his incredible offense, ended up putting him in a bad spot. So he would be running and then he would get caught and dropped, or he'd be, locking in a submission, then he gets quickly reversed because he makes a tiny mistake, gets submitted. It's always something tiny like that, which is why he started to be more calm in that last fight. Which I'm also putting up here. Wild? ? Which one are we going to see here? I don't know. Nobody knows how Lacerda is going to show up in this one. Is he going to go back to being a madman that almost won him all 4 of those fights that he lost? Or is he going to be a more calm fighter like he was in the last one? We don't know. That's why the question mark is there. But to be honest, I think he should be the wild guy, because this is actually a guy where that would work, because he doesn't have a lot of output, the Chairez. So if he's going to be wild, I would think this is the time to pull it out. That's why it's in green. And the question mark, like I said, is there because I don't know which Lacerda we're going to get here, or which De Silva. Who is this guy even? I don't even know. But yeah, used to be the wildest fighter I'd ever seen, hands down. There was no competition. Wildest guy I've ever seen. But then he tamed it down. Which one are we going to see? I don't know. But he's at plus 333. So who's getting the edge here? Who's getting the edge? The odds would suggest that it's Chairez. Will I say the same thing? We'll see. Very close in the first fight. Nothing had really happened yet, like I said. I mean, it was pretty much dead even. Chairez has good striking, so if it gets crazy, if he brings out that wild man like he did before, maybe he gets knocked out by Chairez. Maybe a decision for Chairez. And he almost got that sub. Maybe he locks in another one and gets a real submission win. I don't know. Lacerda on the other side, extremely dangerous. He's always live for a finish anywhere. So where am I going with this? I would actually say it's even, which the reason why I put these on here as even is because I don't want to give an edge to people. But that does mean betting-wise, if it's even to me, you should probably be taking the underdog, because if I can't really give an edge to anybody, that means it really should be 50-50. So when you see odds like this, you might as well just jump on the underdog anyway. Because in the long run, that will make you money, statistically speaking. If you do the math, that will win you money in the long run. Next up, it is, I believe it's Jesus Aguilar, yes, and Mateus Mendonce. The best hair in the game. My God, I wish I could have hair like that. The most beautiful shade of blue that has ever been shown in hair form. That is incredible. I wish my hair could support that still. Jesus Aguilar will, of course, open with him. He's 9-2, loss in the pro debut, and loss in his pro debut, so his first fight ever, and then in his UFC debut as well, which was, funny enough, against Tatsuro Taira. We're going to be talking about Taira a lot today, even though he's not fighting, but he's fought most of the flyweights on this card, interestingly enough. And then he had that insane absolutely insane KO over Shannon Ross in like, what was it, like 10 seconds, 11 seconds, something like that. Crazy. But of course, that's Shannon Ross. We know he doesn't have a chin. He's been knocked out, like, I think 3 times in less than a minute now. You know? So is that really the craziest thing? Probably not. But when you watch it, pretty insane. That is for sure. I mean, he turned Ross into a ghost. Like, his soul left the body. That is for sure. Which, of course, offense. Pretty insane. Huge power, as we saw in that fight. And great speed. I mean, with the hands and the kicks. Amazing. Amazing to see. And has a nasty guillotine. One of the best guillotines I've ever seen because of his tiny, tiny little arms. We'll get into that later, but he's got the shortest reach in UFC history, by the way. But that gives you one insane guillotine. That is for damn sure. And he has won multiple times with that submission. Almost got Tatsuro Taira with that submission, actually, that guillotine. But the defense, that's where it falls apart. It's a pretty common theme, actually, today, where I noticed a lot of people on this card, and maybe it's a Mexican thing, maybe Mexican and Brazilian thing, where they have amazing offense, but the defense, not great, not great. And that really follows up here, too. Especially because of that reach, of course. Hard to defend, you know, striking with this when your reach, I think it was something like, 65 inches or something like that. So he's always at a reach disadvantage. Very hard to overcome that. But not only that, because he always goes for the guillotine, that usually means he puts himself in a bad spot on the ground, because if you don't get the guillotine, not good, because you usually end up on the bottom when you do that. So not a good spot to be in. And he ended up getting submitted by Taira exactly because of that, because he put himself in that bad spot. Yeah. And the size, like I said, that really is what it comes down to a lot of the time with him. Smallest reach in UFC history at 62 inches. 62 inches. Wow, that is small. That is small. Just a comparison, by the way, I'm 5'11", and I think my reach is about 70-something inches. So it's like, this guy's really small. He's very, very small. And especially in this matchup, not good, because Mateus Mendonça has a 9-inch reach advantage. 9-inch reach advantage. That's a problem. That is a problem for anybody. I don't care how good you are. 9 inches, that's a problem. So I had to write that down. Minus 112. So it's basically dead even at this point. On the other side, it's Mateus Mendonça. 10-2, both losses, by the way, were his only UFC fights. One of them, Javid Basharat. Fair enough. I mean, Basharat, we're going to be seeing him, I believe, actually next week. Next week, I think he's fighting against Ayman Zahabi, I believe. But yeah, he's very, very good. That was a decision loss. And I mean, you know what? That's fine. If you lose to a Basharat brother, I'm not going to hold it against you, because they're both very, very good. The other loss, knocked out by Nate Maness in the first round. But that's actually a very deceptive loss, I gotta say, because I watched it again, as I always do. And it was really more of a fight IQ issue, because he was actually winning the fight pretty convincingly. He got takedowns. He was kind of peppering Maness on the feet there. And then what happened was he ended up taking Maness down, and then eventually Maness reversed him, and then Mendonça was going for these weird leg lock attempts, reminiscent of Claudio Puelles. I still don't know how to say his name, and I even know a decent amount of Spanish, and I still can't say his name properly. Very reminiscent of Claudio there, and ended up just getting hit in the face until he got knocked out because he was going for leg locks. He went for leg locks for like a minute and a half or 2 minutes, like, idiot. And then he just got knocked out by the ground and pound. Like, that was his own fault. That wasn't even anything that Maness was doing. He put himself in that spot to get knocked out. So very deceptive loss there. It's not what you would think with a first round KO, that's for sure. That being said, I mean, you know, based on what I just said, you might not think it, but he is pretty well rounded, I gotta say. He's got great striking, fast hands, good power, decent wrestling. I mean, even against Basharat, he showed some pretty good wrestling in that, and we know how good these Basharat guys are. And then really slick BJJ. I mean, almost got the knee bar a couple of times, like I said, against Manis. Of course, that did end up, because of his stupidity, led to him getting knocked out. But he even, I think he almost even got the knee bar against Basharat too. So, I mean, this guy's pretty good. He's pretty slick. Very aggressive. That is his other great asset. Always looking for a finish on the feet and on the ground. So, looking for a knockout, walking forward, looking for a submission on the ground, moving, always looking for that finish. Very much Diego Lima, you know what I mean? And even against Basharat, he always gave him something to look at, always pushed him back, and that's tough to do against somebody like that. But, as you can tell by what I just said, the fight IQ has definitely been a problem. That has been a glaring issue. Like I said, KO'd by Manis because he was going for leg attacks. He really could have literally just rolled somewhere else, stood back up, done anything. Literally anything. He had a minute and a half or 2 minutes straight where he could have done anything else except for what he did. But because he kept doing it, he just kept getting hit with the ground and pound until his chin literally could not take it anymore and he just got knocked out. Stupid. Mistake. And he also did make a couple of mistakes against Basharat as well. But again, Basharat's pretty good, so I can see why that happened. He is a slight favorite at minus 125. So again, very, very close in this matchup. So like I said, who's getting the edge? Very, very close. Either guy could win by decision. And Mendonça could get a sub in this one. Aguilar could get a KO. What's going to happen? I don't know. Because honestly, those seem equally likely, especially if Mendonça doesn't fix his fight IQ. Because if he learns a good strategy and learns what not to do, he should be able to win. But at the same time, I don't know, like the knockout power, I don't know. They're both so even. I really could see this going either way, which of course is why the odds are that close as well. I think it's pretty even too. So again, that would normally mean go for the underdog if you're looking for the bets here. Next up, it's Quinones. Can't remember his first name right now, and I don't write the first names down, but it's Quinones on one side and Raoni Barcelos on the other side. We'll open up, of course, with Quinones. Hold on. I need to plug in my laptop here. There we go. Low battery. That would not be good. He's 1-1 in the UFC so far after a win on the Contender Series. He got that first round KO over Khalid Taha, which was generous from the ref. Let's just say that, because not really sure if that should have been called off or not, to be honest, if you watch that back. Oh, I think, is it Christian Quinones? I think that's his name. Who knows? No way to find out either. First round loss to Kyung Ho Kang in the last fight. That was his last fight, which I believe was a submission loss, yes. The striking, definitely what you want to look out for. He almost KO'd Kang. Oh, it was a club and sub, right. He almost knocked out Kyung Ho Kang before he got club and subbed. So club and sub, of course, you know, knocked down and then you get submitted, club and sub. But does have pretty quick counters, heavy hands. Again, Taha, we saw. But again, Taha, a little bit of an early stoppage, but he did drop him, so I can't really take that, you know, I can't put that against him. He did get a knockdown for sure. Just maybe an early stoppage on that. Definitely an early stoppage on that. He does have a lot of pressure, though. Always pushing forward or moving side to side, usually throwing something. The chin. The chin is an issue. And I don't think I've ever actually written this about anybody before. But he has been rocked and stumbled or KO'd in every fight that I've seen so far, which is, I think, 3 or 4 different fights. He was rocked, stumbled, or KO'd in all of those. And as soon as that happens, he always starts to move back. That's not really that good. That is not what you want to see. When you get hit like that, you want to see them move forward or do something, even just go for some grappling. Do something. But with this guy, he gets hit a little bit and then he starts walking back. He starts just kind of falling apart in general. That's not what you want to see. He's at plus 150 right now. On the other side, Barcelos, crazy stat, and I actually didn't even know this until yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago when I did this. He was 16-1. 16-1 in 2021. Wow. But then what happened is he lost 4 out of 5. What happened there was he got a majority decision loss, which is pretty close, obviously, to Timur Valiev, who was on The Ultimate Fighter this year, if you saw that. And then he got decision losses to Victor Henry and Kyler Phillips, Phillips being in August. And he also had the first round KO loss to Umar, but that's another one. We won't hold against him on that one because it's Umar. His huge strength is his grappling. He's a great wrestler, pretty good BJJ, so just the grappling all around, very, very good. Something to look out for. The striking, though, I don't want to say it's bad. It's just not as good as his grappling, and he has struggled with it before. He did stumble Kyler Phillips in the last fight. It's really mostly the defense that is the problem. The offense is fine. The defense is more the problem. He walks into things sometimes as well because of the wrestling, of course. You're going for wrestling. Sometimes you get punched in the face. Sometimes you get kneed in the face too. It just happens. Has shown a good chin in the past, but does get dropped sometimes. And especially when you are slightly older, that can be a bit of a problem. He is 9 years older in this matchup. He is 36. Quinones is 27, if I'm doing the math correctly, which I believe I did. But because of all that experience and because of his style, he is a slight favorite now, minus 188. Who is getting the matchup in this one? Or getting the edge in this one? It's pretty close again. It really is. Either one of them could win a decision. I could see that. Barcelos could get a sub. Quinones could get a KO. I could see either one happening, which is why I know. I'm making it even on this one too. I'm not going to lie. Okay, for the rest of the card, I'm giving out a lot of edges, but for these ones, the people are so inconsistent that I had to give out a lot of even ones on this one because they're so wishy-washy, a lot of these fighters, that it's so hard to tell what's going to happen with them. Especially Lacerda and people like that. I mean, it's crazy. It's way too hard to predict, so you just go bet on the underdog in these ones. But yeah, Quinones isn't really as good, I don't think, but he does have power. He's also in Mexico, remember that? So Quinones, Mexican, has power. Barcelos, 7 years older, 36. Even though he is much better, I think, that can be a problem. The chin, the speed, everything, age, especially in those lower weight classes, goes downhill. It's not good after a while. So you never know when it's going to start happening. Could be Saturday. We don't know. Next one. It's Torres. It's Duncan at lightweight. This is another one you definitely want to watch for sure. I'm not going to say guaranteed knockout in this one, but it's going to be fun. I guarantee that. 14-2 for Manuel Torres. Both losses are by submission on the regional scene. That is something to remember. And he had one of the most brutal KOs I've ever seen. Maybe my favorite KO of last year, I'm not going to lie, over Nicholas Mota. He had that lead elbow, knocked out Mota clean, just fell over straight into the fence. I mean, oh yeah, of course, I forgot about the Emmett KO. There was that one too. over Mitchell. I really enjoyed that one, of course. But this one, maybe second place behind that. Insane KO, though. And almost all of his fights, win or loss, have ended in the first round. So that's why I'm saying you don't want to miss this one. You do not want to miss this fight. Obviously, his striking is his best asset. Loves a great brawl, and it's why he has all those finishes, and also why, of course, he lost those ones early on. He did get hit quite a bit by Frank Camacho. He did eat it pretty well, though, so he clearly does have a chin. He got cracked by Mota as well. Ate it there, too. So this guy has one hell of a chin. He's Mexican, so maybe it's that Mexican power. Who knows? But yeah, insane. The power coming back, though. He'll eat it and then just throw it back at you. Just crazy power coming back. The defense, though... yeah, like I said, loves a great brawl. So he loves getting in a firefight. That's not always going to work. And that, I'm sure, guarantee you, will come to bite him someday. Will it be this weekend? I'm not sure. But it will come to bite him eventually, because you can't just walk into things like that all the time. Yeah. So it's working so far. Will it keep working? I'm not sure. The one thing we really don't know, how is his grappling, actually? Because like I said, he did get submitted a couple of times in the regional scene, but there's pretty much no tape at all of him grappling. He kind of shut down Camacho's grappling attempts. Didn't really look amazing, and that was a few years ago. So there's really no indication at all of how good this guy is at grappling at all. Submissions, wrestling... There is pretty much nothing on him at all. So, complete mystery on that one. But, by the way, he does have not even just a couple of losses. He also has a couple of wins by submission as well. So, I don't think that he's going to be that bad. I don't even know if it'll come into play this fight, which is why I don't think it really matters anyway. But it's something to watch out for, just in case Duncan goes for that kind of a strategy. Minus 188 right now. Probably because he's Mexican, they're in Mexico, he's got the knockouts. Makes sense. Chris Duncan on the other side. 11-1. The one loss is a KO loss to Slava Claus himself on the Contender Series in 2021. And then on the Contender Series, the second time he ended up getting his own KO, even though he almost got knocked out a second time. He stood back up and got a KO of his own on the Contender Series 2022. That was one wild fight. Is definitely one of the craziest fights I've ever seen on the Contender Series. That one. I think it's Charlie Campbell and this guy, Duncan. And then beat Omar Morales in a split decision. And then beat Yanal Eshmouz in the last one. The striking, definitely his strongest asset. Pretty technical, decent power, decent accuracy. Hands a little low, though. Does get hit, which again, probably why he got knocked out by Slava Claus and why he almost got knocked out by Charlie Campbell on the Contender Series. Keeps those hands very low. Probably not good when you're fighting a knockout artist. We'll see. And again, that's why I wrote this. Chin, question mark, because... every single fight that I saw, he keeps getting dropped or knocked out. Morales dropped him pretty bad, and he's kind of old. Morales dropped him pretty bad in the first round. He was knocked out by Slava there. Almost KO'd for the second time on the Contender Series by Charlie Campbell. Like I said, the wrestling seemed okay, but... I don't know, when you get hit that much, that hard, that often, I don't know. That's why the question mark is there. Because, yes, he recovered in most of those cases. Is that going to work every single time? I'm not sure. I doubt it. I doubt it. You can't rely on that chin forever. And the pace. The pace is also a problem for him. He doesn't really throw a whole lot. He's more of a counter fighter. So... he kind of waits for you to throw, and then he throws. Not a great strategy against certain people. it might work here because Torres doesn't necessarily have a high pace either, but still, that's a problem too. And his odds plus 150. So who am I going for here? I do actually think it's fairly close. I mean, the odds are fairly close as well. They're pretty similar fighters, like I said. I mean, they're kind of just like, let's get into a brawl and see who wins. That's pretty much what both of them do. So, yeah, I mean, realistically, that means either one of them could get a finish in this one, and either could get a decision, I guess. If their chins hold up, we could see a decision as well. But who am I going with? I did pick a side this time. I'm going with Torres, not just because it's in Mexico, which I think does help, but I just don't really think that Duncan can actually hold up to this kind of pace and this kind of power coming at him. Because like I said, he gets hit so much, and he always gets stumbled, always gets knocked down or knocked out. So I know he's going to get hit pretty clean here again. And if you get hit clean by Manuel Torres, you're probably getting knocked out. So I had to go with Torres on this one. And even if it does go to a decision, to be honest, I actually do think that Torres probably has a slightly higher pace to then win the decision as well. Just slightly higher. But Duncan's pace is so low that I think he could even win a decision in this one. So I got to go with Torres on this one. And like I said, Mexican crowd does help out a lot. So I'm going with Torres. Next one. It's the ladies. Jauregui. One of my favorite female fighters, Yasmin Jauregui. And Sam Hughes. I forgot what her name was for a second. Sam Hughes. Jauregui, let's get it going. 10-1, and that one loss coming by a shocking 20-second loss to Denise Gomes, which, let's be real, that was definitely an early stoppage as well in that last fight. Other than that, flawless. Beat Estela Nunes, beat Yasmin Lucindo. Very exciting fighter, and she's only 24. She doesn't really look like she's 24, but she's 24, still learning. Very good, very tough. We'll get right on into it. Her striking, of course, is where it's at. That is what you want to look out for. Very fast hands, great power. Did get dropped by Estela Nunes once, and did get hit a couple of times by Lucindo. Maybe it's kind of that Manuel Torres style that I literally just talked about. You know, kind of just okay with getting into a brawl, hoping the chin holds up. And it has so far, except for that Denise Gomes one, which, again, early stoppage. The grappling, though, we literally have not seen grappling at all, really. I mean, it seems like she's good at takedown defense, but we haven't really seen that tested. All of her opponents so far have been strikers. Estela Nunes, Yasmin Lucindo, Denise Gomes. All three strikers. We really don't know what her grappling is like at all. And we know that that's going to get tested this weekend. So that is something we'll have to look out for. We don't really know how it is right now. What we do know is absolute tank on this side. I mean, she just walks through people's punches like it's nothing just to get closer to do her own damage. And while that probably will not work forever, it will probably work in this matchup because I don't think Hughes has the striking to deal with it, but we'll get into that in a little bit. She did this even to Estela Nunes, and Estela Nunes has some good hands too, and she even did it to her and ended up getting a finish like that. And she also even got hit, like I said, pretty clean and pretty hard a couple of times. Didn't really affect her too much. The only time, like I said, that affected her was that Denise Gomes fight. It was in the first 20 seconds, and the ref got an early stoppage. So, yeah, you know, I don't know. But she's a massive, massive favorite in this one, minus 650. We move on to Sam Hughes in this one. She's 8-5, rough record. Losses to Demopoulos, that was not in the UFC, but she still lost to her. Tisha Torres, Loma Lubunmi, Luana Pinedo, and Pieta Rodriguez. And then she does have some wins, though. She has a win over Estela Nunes, who we just talked about. and Elise Reed, and actually undefeated Jacqueline Amorim in her last fight. The offense is pretty good, I gotta say. Well, not pretty good. It's good. Good when she's moving forward and pressuring hard. Okay striking offensively, decent accuracy. The power, though, really not there. Really not there at all. But she does land, which does get you points on the cards, of course. The defense, though, not great. Not great at all, especially when she's moving backwards, which is most of the time. Pieced up by pretty much everybody so far. There is almost zero head movement, which is concerning when you do that 4 or 5 fights in a row and there's still no head movement. I don't think we're going to see head movement this fight either, which is probably why she's a massive underdog. Oh yeah, actually I should say though, amazing submission defense against Amorim, but did get taken down pretty easily in the last few fights, so even the wrestling defense, not great, not great. But the submission defense, though, I guess she does have. But everything else in terms of defense, not there. Not there at all. Cardio, though. This is literally the only reason why she's been winning any fights at all, is because at a certain point, some of these women just have not been able to stand up to that kind of cardio. She just pushes and pushes and pushes with that offense all 3 rounds, and there's not a lot of women that can do that, especially, you know, outside of that top 20 range. They just don't usually have that kind of cardio, so that's really why she's been winning, because she always wins the second and third rounds to win a decision. She hasn't really been getting finishes. It's just that these people fall apart after the first round against her. And she's at plus 450 because Hauergui is an absolute beast. So who am I going to be picking here? They both fought Estela Nunes, so it's kind of a good comparison point here. Hauergui got a second round finish, even though, like I said, she was walking into the punches of Estela Nunes. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. Walked right through it, got the KO eventually. Hughes won a majority decision. And it's a decision that honestly a lot of people disagree with. There was lots of complaints about that one. A lot of people think she lost. It was definitely close. I kind of think she lost too, but it was close. I mean, it was a majority decision. It was definitely close. But yeah. I mean, even comparing the two, even just that alone, kind of see where I'm going with this. I mean, either one could win a decision realistically based on their styles. You know, Hughes with the grappling, if Hauergui doesn't know how to grapple, because we don't really know yet. Or Hauergui could easily win a decision with her striking. Could go either way. But I gotta go with Hauergui. I don't know how you go against somebody like this, especially when they're in Mexico. I just really don't think that Hughes can handle that kind of forward pressure and that kind of power, that kind of striking. I just really don't think she can handle that at all. And like I said, it's also in Mexico. Hauergui has some kind of mindset. You know, she's one of those people that's just like, I'm not going to lose. Like, there's no way I'm losing this fight. She has that in every fight. So especially when this is in Mexico, I have a very hard time believing that she's just gonna gas out or, you know, give Hughes a way to win this fight. No, she's gonna win this in any way possible. She will win this fight. So I've got to go with Hauergui. I don't even know what else to say. I'm gonna go with Hauergui. That's all I'm gonna say. Next up, it's the teen phenom, the 19-year-old Rosas Jr., Ricky Turcios, the wild man. Oh my God, this guy is crazy. And he sings karaoke at press conferences. How about that? What a guy. Absolute lunatic that guy is. Rosas Jr., let's get into him first. 19 years old. 8-1. The one loss, of course, Christian Rodriguez. But he has, of course, 2 wild UFC wins as well. The submission win, Jay Perrin. Or maybe that was the submission win. Then the knockout in the last one against, I think it's Terrence Mitchell or something. Grappling, obviously, that's his best asset. Truly, and I really mean this, some of the best, most insane grappling in the entire UFC. I know he's 19, I know he's new, but if you really look at what he's doing, there are not a lot of people in the UFC that can do that. I mean, Chimaev is an example. He can do that. Other than that, there truly are not that many people that can do stuff like this. And although he did lose to C-Rod, he did almost submit him quite a few times, by the way. Like he locked in, I think it was at least 3 or 4 really, really deep submissions where the commentators were losing their shit, clearly thinking he was about to get the win there. It was that close, very, very close. And he did also take him down a couple of times other than that throughout the fight. Even in the second or the third round, he still got a takedown in there, here and there. Even though, of course, he did gas out in there. Aggressive. Insanely aggressive. Not like Daniel Lacerda, but very aggressive. Very aggressive. Borderline reckless. I don't want to say reckless, though, because if you actually watch what he's doing, he does actually still wait for when there's an opening. So he's not just running in there and then getting hit. Like he's only actually run into a knee one time, and that was against C-Rod in the second round. That was the only time I've ever seen him like, oh shit, he actually got me there. And that was just the one time, that was it. So he's not reckless, but he is very, very aggressive. But as we've seen in that C-Rod fight, the fight IQ has been a problem. Is he better now? Is he not? That's always a question, especially when he's 19. I mean, come on. He's 19. He's just starting. He doesn't know how to fight properly yet. So the fight IQ might have gotten a lot better since then. We don't really know, but that was definitely a problem. He just wasted his cardio in the first round. And he was giving up positions a lot, just kind of assuming that he was going to be able to reverse C-Rod or overpower C-Rod in a lot of those situations. And he was wrong. He could not overpower him, and he gave up those positions willingly. So that's fight IQ. That's a problem. What else was there? Like I said, I hope he learned from it. We'll see. We'll find out. But that's obviously huge problem for him in the past. Minus 225 going into this one. On the other side, the wild man, Ricky Turcios. One tough 29. That's 2021. Did lose to Ayman Zahabi after that. Got a split decision win over Kevin Natividad at the end of 2022. That was his last fight. Hasn't fought since, so that's, a year and 4 months since he last fought. Also not really a good sign either, but that's where he finds himself. The offense, for sure, is where he's good at, is the offense. One of the most unpredictable people I've ever seen. Absolutely insane. You really can't tell what he's going to be doing next. And it's very effective, I gotta say. And that's on all 3 levels. Striking, wild, nonsense. I mean, he just throws anything. Wrestling, he'll just go for wild takedowns all over the place. And BJJ, he'll just reverse people, drag them on top of him, go for leg locks, chokes, anything, arm bars, whatever. Crazy. He really actually reminds me of Tony Ferguson a little bit, just because he's that unpredictable. He is the definition of unpredictable. The defense, though. The defense is where that completely falls apart. Awful defense on the feet with striking and wrestling. Good on the ground defense, don't get me wrong. The submissions, the BJJ, all that, great. But terrible. Some of the worst defense I've seen actually on the feet. And I don't usually say that lightly, but it's a problem here. It really is. With the striking and the wrestling. Very much a problem. But of course, like I said, wild, very unexpected, very unpredictable. Really reminds me of Ferguson, like I said, because you never know what he's going to do. Never stops moving, never stops throwing, very unorthodox moves. That is extremely difficult to deal with, especially if you're not super experienced. And he also has the cardio to support that style in all 3 rounds, which is why I put it in green, because it is definitely a good thing and it's definitely an asset. But yeah, the defense is a problem, of course, which is probably why he is an underdog at plus 175. I mean, sure, there's the hype around Rosas, you know, and they're in Mexico. Rosas fought in Mexico before. You know, I understand, but I do think it's probably a bit more even than this, but yeah. Who's getting the edge, though? Who am I giving the edge? I think it's a lot closer than the odds suggest, personally. Rosas could really do some crazy shit and win early, like he has before, or he could just take it easier, take it easier this time, and probably pretty easily get a decision. But has he improved in the fight IQ since then to do that? If he did what Daniel Lacerda did in the last fight and just take it easy, he would easily win this fight because he has the wrestling and the BJJ to just control Tercios. He would just control him, take him down, control him, do some submission attempts, ground and pound, and do that all 3 rounds. He could easily do that. But is he going to do that? I don't know. I don't know. He has questionable fight IQ. And Tercios could easily just use his cardio, because if Rosas throws his cardio out the window again, now we see, you know, Ricky Tercios could win by decision. Wins the 2nd and the 3rd round, just like C-Rod did. He could very easily do that as well. So I really do think this is a lot closer than they're saying it is. But I am going to go with Rosas. I am going to go with Rosas on this. Oh, whoops. Where's his picture? I fucked that up real bad. Damn it. Messed up the animations on that one. I'm not fully convinced that he did learn from C-Rod yet, but he did win that. But C-Rod won that fight completely because of his defense. He did not win that fight based on his offense. He just defended all 3 rounds, and then he threw just a tiny bit of offense in there. And that's what won him the fight. That's it. It's just as simple as that. He shut down the submission attempts, reversed Rosas, controlled the position on top, landed a little bit of light ground and pound here and there. That was it. He didn't do anything crazy. He wasn't offensively that insane, C-Rod. All he did was defensively sound things. And Tercios doesn't have that. He doesn't have defense. So for me, he just doesn't have the defense to handle that kind of offense coming back at him. So I think Rosas is going to be able to probably win a decision, maybe a finish, but probably more likely a decision because Tercios is one tough dude. But I'm still going with Rosas. Okay, we're on the main card. Well, we're still on the main card, I guess. I'm going to have a little bit of a sip of water here. Gotta rest the vocal cords. Brutal. Moving on. Zellhuber, I don't know. Prado on the other side. Both guys, by the way, very, very young going into this. Prado, 21 years old. Zellhuber, 24. This is actually, I think, the first time I've ever seen where Zellhuber is the older fighter. He has always been the younger fighter, and usually by a significant margin, by the way. And we'll talk about him first, of course. 14-1. The only loss came to Trey Ogden. That was mainly because of activity and then the length of Trey Ogden, because Zellhuber usually is the longer fighter. That's usually how he wins. That was the one fight where I think the guy had the same reach, or if not a bigger reach, and then, of course, was more active. So he did lose that one, but it was still pretty close. 2 wins in a row now, though. Lando Venata, Christos Giagos on the other is the other one. The striking, though, of course, as you would imagine with that length, is his best asset. He uses that range really well. Kicks, jabs, very good, very technical striking. But he does get hit. He does get hit. And he actually lost the first round to Christos Giagos in that last fight. Lost the first round, ended up coming back in the second to get a KO or TKO win against Giagos in that one. But did lose the first round. Don't forget that. And it's because of that pace. Because of that pace. He keeps a very low output most of the time. That has been in all of his fights. And like I said, that's why he lost to Ogden. And it's why he was losing to Christos Giagos in that last fight. His pace. The size, though, very difficult to deal with. He has a huge reach advantage in this fight. 8 inches. 8 inches over Francisco Prado. Very difficult to take down because of that height, because of that reach. And again, uses this very well. He uses his length very well. The kicks, the jabs to keep people away from him. And then, of course, when they try and take him down, he's so tall that they just can't do it. So it's a very difficult size to deal with. And that's probably why it's minus 275. That, and he's Mexican, of course. So, you know, the home field advantage in the betting, that always happens. On the other side, Francisco Prado, he did get a knockout over Otman Azaitar in the first round in July. Before that, though, was his lone career loss. That was against Jamie Malarkey in his UFC debut. The striking, also his main thing. Good power, creative striking, throws a lot of spinning stuff, a lot of creative things. Does keep his hands kind of low, though. So the defense, bit iffy, and that's what got him into trouble against Malarkey. He also struggled with the grappling of Malarkey, which is concerning, but it was also the striking of Malarkey that gave him a problem because of that defense. And as I just said, the grappling, very much a problem, because I don't know if you know anything about Malarkey, but he ain't no grappler. So if you're getting taken down and controlled by Malarkey and you really can't get back up, that is concerning. That is very concerning. Other concern, extremely low output. Extremely low output. And again, that was his problem in that Malarkey fight. So not only could he not get back up from the grappling, he also wasn't really throwing much out there back at Malarkey as well. And even in the Azaitar fight as well, by the way, still didn't really have a whole lot of output. He just happened to get a knockout. So, and he got in a firefight with him. That's kind of what happened. Plus 210 is what he's at right now. Again, another very, very close one. I gotta say, way closer than the odds suggest. That is for sure. Because they're very similar. Neither guy throws a whole lot of output. And we've seen what happens with that before. If neither guy has a lot of output, that's when you start to see these weird split decisions, majority decisions, you know, all this weird scoring stuff. This is the matchup where this kind of stuff happens, which concerns me greatly. Especially, you know, when you're betting on it, that's not what you want to see. And both of them are strikers. So do we even see any grappling anyway, even though Prado's not really good at it? Probably not, honestly. Both could win by decision. Both could get a KO. Prado has the power. Zellhuber has the length and a bit of power. Either could get a KO, either could get a decision, which is why I'm sorry to say I'm giving one last even. Well, it's not the last even I'm going to give on this card, but it is even, which means take the underdog because it's just too close. Both of them, like I said, keep such a low pace that I have a feeling it's going to be one of those ones, snoozer, it's going to be one of those ones that is going to be difficult for the judges to score, and we're probably going to see some weird results, so I just like to stay away from those ones because I always get burned by the decisions in those ones, so I'm going to just stay out of it, but because of those odds, you know, that's usually when you want to go with the underdog because Prado is like plus 200 something, so if you're doing this for betting, yes, that would be the way to go. Next up, it's the co-main event. I love this fight so much because I like both of them quite a bit, and we know it's going to be exciting. Yair Rodriguez Brian Ortega. Oh, oh, oh. I can't wait to watch this. I can't wait to watch. Hopefully no bullshit like that last time. And we'll get into that right now. A quick recap of the fight. Because whenever you see a rematch, you want to give a quick recap of what happened, because usually similar things happen in both or three, all three of the fight, whatever it is, whatever the series. Usually when they're fighting each other, similar things happen. So again, Ortega, that was a super weird loss where his shoulder popped out and the fight just ended. Super bizarre end. Inconclusive, to say the least. But yeah, before that though, very close on the feet. Neither guy at the start was really doing a whole lot to get ahead. Very close. Then Ortega pushed him into the fence. Was doing well there. I think they spent about a minute along the fence. Ortega was doing well there. So you could have even say he was winning the fight up until that point. Yair landed a couple of clean shots after that. Nothing insane. I mean, it's Ortega. He's got one of the best chins. I mean, it's insane. But he did land a couple of clean shots on him. Not enough to oh shit, he's winning the round now. No, it was still pretty close. And then Ortega got a takedown. So that's, again, good for Ortega. He got the takedown. And then as soon as that happened, you see Ortega pulls his arm out, ready to go for a ground and pound, get his arm out of the triangle, go for ground and pound. And as soon as he takes his arm out, literally takes his arm out of the socket, I should say. And then fight ends. That's it. So truly, it was exactly 50-50, I would say, before that. Because Yair landed a couple of half-decent shots. Ortega was winning clinch control, got a takedown. To me, that is dead even at 50-50. Call me crazy. That's how I scored it at that point. So, now we come in to this one. How is this one going to go? Well, we'll get into Yair first, of course. Coming off that loss to Volk, of course. And his only other UFC losses, by the way, Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar in his... I don't think it was his debut, but it was an earlier fight against Frankie Edgar. Main thing, super dangerous. I mean, one of the most dangerous people in the division, if not maybe the most dangerous, just because he's so dangerous everywhere and he's so unpredictable that it's he really could get a finish at any given moment because he's so quick and so unpredictable and so powerful with what he does. Very entertaining to watch, which of course is why I want to watch this so bad and why I hope there's no dumb bullshit this time with the arm and everything. He can land some wild heavy shots for a KO. I mean, we've seen all the spinning stuff. We've seen, that last second KO against Korean Zombie. That will live on forever. And he can sink in some nasty submissions. That's what he did to Emmett. Emmett took him down. Emmett actually was doing pretty well in that fight, by the way. When I rewatched it, I was like, oh, he did better than I thought he did in this fight. But then sunk in that arm triangle, leg triangle, won the fight. You just can't get into positions like that against him. You just can't make any mistakes against him. That's really the general theme of this point. Next up, the defense, though. Really does not have great defense, actually. Interesting fact, or at least in the fights that I watched. I don't know if the fact follows up for the ones before the ones I watched, but I watched his last three fights. And even in the Max fight, I distinctly remember him getting taken down. He has been taken down by every single opponent so far. That includes Ortega the first time. It includes Volk. It includes Emmett. It includes Max. And I'm pretty sure it included Frankie Edgar too when they fought. So that's at least 5 opponents that took him down. That is definitely something you want to watch out for. And it's something that I don't think I've ever heard too many people mention before, because I think people focus so much on the offense that they kind of forget that he has not great defense. So yeah, there's the takedowns, but he also gets hit quite a bit. Volk hit him quite a bit. Max hit him quite a bit. I mean, he lost to Max, so obviously he got hit quite a bit. Emmett hit him clean a couple of times, so Emmett landed a few shots on him. I mean, the only one who didn't really, I guess, was kind of Ortega the first time. I mean, again, it was pretty competitive, so it was 50-50, but I mean, again, the fight didn't last long either, so maybe that was why. But yeah, have not been impressed by the defense at all. Oh, and he actually got dropped by Emmett. I wrote that right here. He got dropped by Emmett, and then dropped, taken down, and finished by Volk. So the defense, not great, but the offense, insane. The pace, though, also concerning, because he doesn't really give a lot of output. And it's, again, something that people don't necessarily pay attention to. They focus so much on the crazy power and skill coming out that they're not even really noticing that he's not actually throwing that much. Even Josh Emmett. Again, Josh Emmett was, I think he was about tied in the numbers when he lost. So in the striking numbers, it was very even. And we know Emmett doesn't really have the most output. That's just a fact. So, you know, the fact that it was that close and then Emmett knocked him down, blah, 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 you know, it is concerning. But whenever he does throw, my God, is it something to watch and very dangerous. And that danger leads him to minus 163 as a favorite. By the way, interesting fact, though, Ortega was the favorite in their first matchup. And yeah, and I mean, considering, like I said, it was, and that was also, by the way, of course, Ortega's last fight. So really the only thing that's changed was the result of that fight. That's the only thing that happened, was the result of that fight. And to me, like I said, it was 50-50. Nothing had really happened too much up until that point. So I understand why Rodriguez is the favorite, but if you look at it without all the external factors, you just get rid of all the external factors and everything, I don't know. I would be saying this should be dead even right now. Minus 110, minus 110. That's what I would think. I mean, I'm not saying Ortega should be the favorite because he lost the first fight, but I think it's pretty close. I think it's pretty close. On the other side, it's Ortega, one of my faves. He was 14-0, by the way, and now he's on a 1-3 run. Very disappointing, very sad. But those three losses, of course, Max Holloway, 2018. Then he beat Zombie in 2020. Then he lost to Volk, 2021. So really has not been active, by the way, either. Then lost to Yair, loss to Yair in 2022. So one fight a year, actually less than one fight a year for the last 6 years. So not very active. But the elite of the elite, like literally the top three people in the division are those are the people that he lost to. So, you know, I don't want to take too much away from him at all. That's for sure. He has shown to be very well-rounded, though, because he almost submitted Volk twice, by the way. Most people only remember the guillotine, of course, because, you know, they see Volk squirming, trying to get out of it and everything. But right after that, actually, he sunk in another really deep submission, and Volk almost tapped to that as well. So it was actually 2 submission attempts in the same round that he almost tapped to. And then not only that, he got another really deep, or fairly deep, submission attempt in, I believe it was maybe like the 5th round. I can't remember off the top of my head at this point. I did watch it last night, but now I can't remember. So he got multiple deep submission attempts in there, and he stumbled Volk. He cut Volk open with the striking. Only Max has been able to do that. And then, of course, Ilya, you know, of course, as well. And then he outstruck, of course, the Korean Zombie. Didn't grapple him at all in that one. Was really just striking. And he outstruck him there, too. So, I mean, truly well-rounded. He really, really is. People really usually think about those submissions, but his striking is also very, very good. Very important to remember. And he's insanely aggressive. He really is. He's always moving forward. Always moving forward. Sometimes he walks into punches, so it's not always a good thing, but usually it's a good thing. And that really was giving Volk a couple of problems as well. Who else was there? Well, and of course, the Korean Zombie did not handle that well either. And I mean, dog. Absolute dog of all dogs. I mean, that 5-round fight against Volk, truly one of the best title fights of all time, for sure. Hands down, that has got to be one of the best title fights of all time in the UFC, for sure. That was insane. And the fact that after the 3rd round, he couldn't actually get up, by the way. The coaches picked him up, which is technically illegal. He should have been actually, by the way, disqualified from that fight if you didn't know that. But, what was I going to say? Fuck. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Super impressive. He got back up, and then not only did he get back up, persevered, he probably won the next... He might have actually won the next round, or maybe not the next round, but he was still fighting back, still doing really well. Got in a couple of those submission attempts, got a couple of takedowns against Volk, was even still landing a couple of shots here and there. I mean, the dog of all dogs, truly. I mean, this guy has absolutely no quit in him whatsoever. Insane. So you cannot question that. He is an absolute dog. We move on. Oh, he's at plus 130 right now, of course. So we move on. We don't move on. Who is getting the edge here? I skipped it, but I'm making it even. It's just too close, honestly. I mean, either guy could get a finish, either guy could get a decision, and either guy could get a knockout or a submission. True. I mean, well, I don't know if I could see a knockout on Ortega's side. Actually, maybe I could, honestly. TKO, I could see that. Take him down, ground and pound. I could see that. Yeah. So either guy could get a KO, either guy could get a sub, either guy could get a decision. To me, dead even. And like I said, the first fight was dead even. So, dead even still. And that's the last one where I'm giving an even for the night, because it's the main event. It's Brandon Moreno. It's Brandon Royval, a battle of the Brandons in, I was going to say the Baja. I don't know. Are they in the Baja of Mexico? I don't know. I don't even know what the Baja is. Who knows? There's no way to know. I don't know. But it's the flyweight main event. Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval. Let's jump into it. Brandon Moreno, split decision loss against Pantoja in the last one. Finish over Kai Kara France. Got that series with Figgy in there as well, of course. Extremely well-rounded, I gotta say. And again, I don't give this out all the time. I don't say a lot of people are well-rounded. But you gotta admit, Moreno is well-rounded as well-rounded gets, that's for sure. He's great offensively and defensively, both on the feet and on the ground. I mean, he's got knockouts, he's got submissions, he's dangerous everywhere, he's good at defending everywhere. It is just very impressive to see, which is why I love flyweights so much, because these flyweights have to be so good to compete in this top 5. The speed is also something to behold, that is for sure. He's got very fast hands, and that does not slow down in any of those 5 rounds. He is the same first round all the way to the 5th round, never slows down. This guy is something else. Of course. I mean, of course he's something else. He was the champ. Of course. And of course, dog, absolute dog, has been in really the best wars in flyweight of the last 3 years. Like, I can't think of another war at flyweight that he was not in. I mean, think of this. He was in the Pantoja fight. That was fight of the year last year. He was in those the 4 Figgy fights. I think all 4 of them were pretty war-ish. They were great fights. And other than that, I can't even think of another huge flyweight fight that was crazy that he wasn't in. I mean, he is truly in all of the best fights at flyweight for the last 3-4 years. Insane. And he has been a dog in all of them. Amazing to watch. Super durable, never gives up, and I'm convinced it's pretty impossible to finish this guy at this point. I mean, I don't know how you would do it. You're not going to knock him out. Like, that's not happening. And then I don't think you can submit him either, because he's so good on the ground that he can't be submitted either. So he is kind of impossible to finish. He really is. -275. -275 as the favorite, of course, in his home of Mexico. And we'll jump right on in to Brandon Royval, the other Brandon. Lost to Pantoja. That was his last fight. Showed some pretty amazing submission offense before that. Showed some pretty good submission defense in that one. Oh, whoops. I should have written that. His main thing is BJJ. Again, submission offense, defense. Only really had one real moment against Pantoja on the ground, though. But that really just shows you how good Pantoja actually is, because he does have three submission wins in the UFC. Kai Kara-France, Matt Schnell, Tim Elliott. All three of those guys, pretty good, pretty difficult to finish, especially on the ground. So that's pretty impressive. It really is. But interestingly, though, the wrestling, not very good. Not very good at the wrestling. Taken down every round easily by Pantoja. And even before that, they mentioned this in the Pantoja fight, if you watch it back, had something like a 35% takedown defense rate, and he just doesn't get back up. So that wasn't just Pantoja, it's been everybody. He really does not defend takedowns, and I've got a feeling that is going to be exploited to the max this weekend. But he does have one huge asset, probably not in this fight though, but in general, the cardio. Insane. Never gets tired, never slows down. I don't know if I would say he never slowed down, because even in Pantoja, I mean, I guess he was kind of slowing down, kind of, not really, but kind of. But yeah, constant talking point last fight was his cardio. I mean, I don't know how many times I heard in that last fight, well, the camera crew caught him going on a 10-mile run, and he was doing a 6-minute pace, wasn't even sweating, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I got it. Like, I heard it 10, 15, 20 times. Yes, I understand his cardio is insane. Sadly, though, I don't think it really matters, because Moreno also has insane cardio, and so does Pantoja. So I didn't really think that would affect anything in either one of those fights. I don't think it's going to affect him here either. I mean, yes, again, this is in Mexico at elevation, but guess who also trains at who also has better cardio? You know, it's Moreno. He's fine. He's Mexican too. I mean, he's Mexican. He trains like this as well. There's no way cardio is going to come into play for either guy. I would be shocked if it did. I'm starting to lose my my I don't even know that's what I'm even trying to say. I'm losing it over here, because we're 2 hours deep into the stream. This is where I start to fall apart. But we're moving on. Plus 210. Those are the odds. Who am I giving the edge? This is what it's come down to. Who's getting the edge in the main event? Both of their last fights, again, against Pantoja, Royval was absolutely dominated with the wrestling. Somewhat competitive in the striking, though, but dominated in the wrestling, not even close. And Moreno went to a split in the fight of the year. Super competitive, all over the place with Pantoja. I mean, if that's a rematch that we get after this fight, oh my God, I would love to see that. Sign me up. I don't care. Like, you know, who cares if Moreno is in all these trilogies and quadrilogies and all this shit with other people? The fights are so good that it doesn't even matter. I would watch it 5, 6, 7 times. I don't care. The fights are so good that it doesn't matter. Anyway, I guess I'm delaying it now. And by the way, also, this is also a rematch, and Moreno won by TKO in the first one. It was really similar, actually, not the same, but it was similar to what happened with Ortega, where his arm popped out, and then the difference being that in this one, Moreno actually, I guess it was basically the same. Yeah, the ref stopped it because of his arm. Sadly, though, the difference was this was with 1 second left in the round. So what Royval was saying in his interview this week, which I saw, was that if the ref would have just kept it going, the corner could have put his arm back in, and they could have kept going the rest of the 10 minutes. But that's not what happened, which is why I say KO loosely, because it's like, it's kind of just an injury, and it's an injury actually that they could have fixed literally, and I mean literally 2 seconds later. Like 1 second there, maybe 5 seconds walking over to the corner would have fixed it and we would have moved on. But such is life. So who's getting the edge? How do you go against Moreno? Viva Mexico! It's in Mexico. This guy's not losing in Mexico. Come on. I mean, come on. I also just don't think that Royval has the well-rounded skill set to deal with Moreno. I mean, he's got the striking. He's got really good wrestling. I mean, he was throwing Pantoja around a couple of times, too. This dude can wrestle. He can strike. He's got the submission, defense, and offense. Moreno should really win this. I mean, he really, really should. So, and he's also durable. So even if somehow Royval starts to get going with something, I just don't think he's going to get a finish, which means Moreno should be able to win 3 out of the 5 rounds and win the fight. So I'm going Moreno all day on this one. And that's it for the main event. Moreno for the win. Viva Mexico. So now we go into a quick recap of the entire, well, not the entire card, but who is getting the edge this week. We'll go through every single one of them quickly. Let's get it going. It is opening with, why is my button not working? It's Muhammad Naimov. I think he really should win this. I don't think Eric Silva is that great, and I think Naimov has a pretty good potential of being top 15. He beat Nathaniel Wood, which was impressive. He got a knockout at lightweight. That's impressive. He should be able to win this easily. Moving on, Felipe Dos Santos. Debut against Manel Kape looked fantastic. He's going against Altamirano, who doesn't really seem to stack up in that kind of style. So Dos Santos should be able to win this one fairly convincingly, I would say. So that's the second guy getting the edge. Next one, it's Fares Ziam. I'm a little bit less convinced on this one, but I gotta say, just because, well, actually, no, that's right. Puelles has one way of winning, literally one single way of winning. He has to get him down to the ground, and he has to submit him. That is his only way of winning this fight. I don't like one-dimensional fighters, so I have to go with Fares Ziam. He should be able to shut down the takedowns. He should be able to dominate on the feet and along the fence to get a decision, maybe even a knockout. So going with Fares Ziam on this one. In the next one, Manuel Torres. This one is a little bit closer, but he should be able to get a knockout. I don't know if Chris Duncan, I don't know if his chin can hold up to this level of power. And even if he does, I think even the pace of Torres should probably win him the decision anyway. So those are the first 4 that got the edge. Now we move on to the next page. Starts with Yasmin Jauregui, one of my favorites. Huge favorite in this fight. Minus 650, I believe it is. Going against Sam Hughes. I just don't think that Sam Hughes can handle the striking pressure of Jauregui at all. I just really don't think she can handle that. So you got to go with Jauregui. It's also in Mexico. I really don't think she's the kind of person that's going to lose in Mexico. Then we got the young gun, 19-year-old Rosas Jr. I was close on this one, I'm not going to lie. I was close to making this one even and not giving an edge, but ultimately it came down to the defense of Ricky Turcios and the offense of Rosas Jr. I just don't think that Turcios can stand up to that level of offense and win on a card, because that's really the only way he's going to win. I don't think he's going to get a finish. So he's got to win on the cards, and I just don't think he can do that. And then finally, Moreno, the king of Mexico. I don't know. That's not his nickname, but I just gave it to him. I don't know. He should be able to win pretty convincingly here. I just don't see how Royval gets it done. He's not going to get a submission win, I wouldn't think. He's definitely not going to get a knockout win. I really don't think he's capable of getting a decision win. So to me, that means Moreno all day. We got to give it to him. The hometown hero, Brandon Moreno. And that's it for the edge. Which brings us to, of course, the best bets of the weekend. These, of course, well, I mean, just like it says, these are the best bets of the weekend for me, the best betting system. And it opens up, of course, as always, with the triple play. And that is where I give three people that got the edge are now put into a parlay. That's what we call the triple play. And today, or this weekend, I should say, that opens with Muhammad Naimov. He's at minus 650 right now, massive favorite over Eric Silva, and understandably so. Second leg, it's Moreno himself, the king of Mexico, minus 275 right now. I just don't really see how he could lose this fight. Not even just because he's the hometown hero on this one, but just style-wise, I just don't really see how Royval could get it done. So minus 275, looking great. And the final leg of that parlay is Fares Ziam at minus 225. This is definitely the leg of these three that I am least confident about, but I said this in the rest of the stream. Puelles is just way too one-dimensional to win a fight like this. I mean, unless he gets an Imanari roll and a knee bar, or an Imanari roll into some other kind of submission, I don't see how he wins. So I gotta go with the well-rounded guy at minus 225, Fares Ziam. And that's it for the triple play, which brings us to final odds of plus 240. So nothing crazy, but it's a nice little start for the triple play. And it's looking pretty solid. I mean, I feel great about Naimov and Moreno. Ziam, I do feel pretty good about, but less so sure about that one, which is why I always like to split up the risk a little bit. You'll see that, of course, with the next one. And of course, as always, by the way, I do have to put that up there. We put one unit always on the triple play. That is what we do every single time, and it's been going well for us so far. Next up, it's the Grand Slam. This is where we give this. I don't know why I keep using that word. This is where we put in 4 fighters instead of 3. 4 fighters that got the edge earlier in the stream, and that opens up with Felipe Dos Santos, minus 334. Looks fantastic in this matchup. Had a great debut against Manel Kape, fighting Victor Altamirano. He looks to be a pretty convincing favorite in this one, I must say. Next up, we've got a returning face, a familiar face. It's Muhammad Naimov in this one as well. I always do this. I put one person in both of them, and then I have the sniper pick in the Grand Slam. That's how I like to distribute it, and it has worked very well for us so far, so I'm going to keep doing it. And it minimizes the risk when you have 5 or 6 people that you're putting in these parlays. You want to spread them out nice and evenly in a way where you can maximize the profits, and this is the way I found to work very well. So Muhammad Naimov, minus 650, he's the next one. Then we've got Yasmin Jauregui, minus 650. In his fists and his elbows, absolute crazy KOs from this guy. This is where I said I was minimizing the risk, because it's Ziam and Torres that I'm most worried about here. because Torres, we haven't seen him too much yet. We've only really seen him strike, but I do think that Chris Duncan's chin will probably fall to the elbow or the fist of Manuel Torres in this matchup, which is why I'm throwing him in here, because I just think that the power is going to be too much. And again, it's in Mexico. So you usually want to give a slight edge to those people, because it really does usually turn out that way. It sounds silly, but it really is true. It does help a lot. Especially with the altitude in this case. If they're always used to fighting in Mexico or training in Mexico, they have that advantage. They really do. So minus 188. We've got all four of them lined up here. Love that. Bring it to the odds at plus 165. So funny enough, the odds, or maybe did I get that wrong in the first one? I don't think I did. Maybe I did. Maybe the odds are wrong on the first one. But plus 165, I know that's right for sure. Or maybe not, because there were -2, -650s in this one. Anyway, plus 165. Anyway, that's what we got on this one. And yeah, feeling pretty good about it. 3 pretty confident ones and 1 a little, just slightly less confident, which is why I say minimize the risk. Put 1 1 and 1 1 in each, you know? And of course, as always, and I use lightly, because when I say I'm still like 70-75% confident that that person's going to win. It's just not like the 90% confidence that I have in Dos Santos, Naimov, and Hauregui. That's all I'm saying. As always, though, half a unit on this, on the Grand Slam. Then we've got the top dog, the best-looking underdog of the week. And I'm not going to lie, I struggled a little bit with this one. I was thinking of going with Ortega. I was so close to picking him. I still kind of want to do that, but I'm not going to go in that direction. We're so far ahead with profit in the top dog picks that why not take one that's a little bit out there, especially when, honestly, in the first fight, and this is giving a hint to where we're going with this, in the first fight, I thought it was dead even and that he had a chance of winning this fight, and then the ref fucked it up. I'm going with Dan the Green for this one. So, you know, if we lose this one, not a huge deal. And if we win it, I mean, we're laughing our way to the bank here. I mean, at that point, I mean, come on. So, as always, we got 1 unit on the underdog, the top dog, Daniel Lacerda this week. Also known as Daniel Da Silva, if you're confused. Finally, it's the sniper pick. Who's the sniper pick this week? I mean, as always, the most confident pick of the week. That's the sniper pick. And who is that this week? It's none other than Felipe Dos Santos, minus 334. I almost went with Naimov on this one, but I don't know. To me, it's kind of like, at this point, I would say they're actually maybe the same level, plus held his own. And Altamirano, I just don't see how he wins. So I'm going with Dos Santos, minus 334, and we're putting 5 units on that one, which if you do the math, you get, was it 6 and a, yeah, you get 6.5 units back, or 6.5 units, so 1.5 units of profit, which, if you were paying attention, that covers every single, both of the parlays. It covers the 1 unit from the Grand Slam, or 1 unit from the triple play, half a unit from the Grand Slam, that's 1.5 units. So Dos Santos gets us the win. That covers the bets for the parlays, which means if we lose the parlays and the top dog, Dos gets it done, which he should. He should. And that's it. That is it for the bets this week. And we'll move back, of course, to the desk Oh, big stretch, of course. Flex on them. Have a nice little sip of connecting. Oh, boy. Huh. Seems like we lost people for a couple of minutes there. We're back now, though. I didn't even really say anything, though. All I was just saying is that... well, now I forget what I was saying. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. 2 weeks of profit in a row. Hopefully we can bring that into the third week. I feel really good about the parlays and the sniper pick. We'll see about the top dog. I'm not going to lie. That's about... It really is about a 50-50 kind of thing here. But, you know, with plus 333, I'll take those odds. But, yeah, hopefully we're looking at a third week of profit in a row. And then we'll bring that profit hopefully into next week, which would be Vegas. Vegas, baby. It's Rosenstrike, I believe, and Shamil Gaziv. Not going to lie, not one of the better cards we've seen. But a couple of interesting matchups, because this was actually supposed to be in Saudi Arabia. So you'll actually notice a lot of Middle Eastern fighters on this one. And a few new faces actually in there as well. So that could be very interesting, seeing some new Middle Eastern what was I going to say? Products, no. What was I going to say? I don't even know what word I was going to use there. I don't know. I'm losing it over here. I don't know. Anyway... So yeah, that's next week. We'll see what happens with these bets. Again, feel pretty good about it. We're on a roll already. Hopefully we can keep that roll going. And then, you know, after that, we've got about 4 more or so until we get to UFC 300. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait for UFC 300. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, the main event was announced. Not gonna lie, like I would say most other people, I had the same reaction. You know, I was kind of like, oh, Pereira, oh my God, what are we going to get here? Jamal Hill. Okay, well, you know, that was my reaction. It was like, well, that's not what we were hoping for. That is not as exciting as we were hoping for. That being said, I also agree with most other people in that even though it's not as exciting as what everybody was hoping for, Connor, Chandler, come on. I still like it. I still like the fight. I know it's going to be a good fight. I know it's going to be exciting. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to get knocked out. I would say that would be my guess. I don't see how that's not going to happen. I'd be pretty surprised. So of course it's going to be exciting. It's just not what we wanted. That's all. But that's okay. Good for Pereira, though. I mean, headlining 300, you know, double champ. Crazy. Crazy career he's had. And he's still got probably a few more years to go. Maybe, you know, maybe triple champ. Heavyweight. You never know. You never know. I'd love to see it. But, yeah, that's all we've got for today. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, all the socials are below. Wow, I keep forgetting to mention that too. All the socials are below. I should really update those too, because I realized I did make the BBBets Instagram, and I didn't update it in the one below. That's still my personal one. I mean, it's not my personal one, but you know, that's my personal one down below, and I kind of don't like posting all the betting stuff there anymore. I just want to post it on the BBBets Insta, which I will start putting below. So other than that,